You're listening to Comic Reflections. I'm Nicholas Prom.
And I'm Spencer Valadez.
This is episode 21.
Number 21.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So today, Spencer and I finally found a time when we could go.
Right.
We went and saw Dredd.
Dredd.
The new Judge Dredd movie, the reboot. Do you call it a reboot when the original was like 20 years ago?
I guess.
And I feel old thinking that movie came out 20 years ago. But, okay. What are your initial reactions to this?
Okay, so I went in this cold. I didn't know really anything about Judge Dredd.
And you've never read any Judge Dredd comics?
Not read Judge comics. I've not seen the original movie. Any of it.
Okay.
So I went in dead cold.
Okay.
And I loved it. It was so good. I can't wait to read comics from this character.
Yay!
It's so
see,
cool.
That's good. That should be a comic book movie should make you should come out like, I'm gonna go read comics.
Right.
So in that aspect, the movie definitely succeeds. Okay, now I am not a massive Judge Dredd guy. I have read a handful of comics. You know, I think I said before. You know, I think I knew more about Judge Dredd from that Anthrax song, "I Am the Law," than from the few comics I've read. But from everything I do know about Judge Dredd, and I did see the other movie, and again, I've heard "I Am the Law" 1,000 times, and the handful of comics I've read. Okay, this felt right. There was nothing phony baloney about this. This was a good picture. Carl Urban, Bones, who's in the new Star Trek series, the motion pictures, was excellent.
Absolutely. I'm glad we didn't see his face.
The helmet never came off, and that was the thing with Stallone. Like he started out with the helmet, but then the helmet comes off because he's a big star,
Right.
And they got to have FaceTime, but no, none of that. And the original one felt like dystopia light because they had Rob Schneider as the comic relief, and it's like, even though the other ones, I enjoyed the other movie and it's fun. And it's not like Stallone wasn't serious.
Right.
And it had a pretty cool villain in Armand Assante, who was a clone of Judge Dredd that looked nothing like him. Oh. It was weird. That's kind of the premise of that movie. Right. Again, it's been a long time since I've seen that, so I'm just recalling. But anyway, this Dredd, okay, this was cool.
Yeah.
I director I'm unfamiliar with. This was all no stuff. I mean, Carl Urban I've seen in Star Trek.
Right.
Everything else was new, but the movie really captured the feel of this very well. Our villain in the story was like, I don't know if this is the choice I would have made because she just looked like Sandra Bernhardt, crackhead.
Right.
But
ruthless.
Yeah, I mean, this was interesting. This was definitely an inner city crime movie. I mean, even though there's this big science fiction landscape to draw from for Judge Dredd, it definitely dwelt in here's a story, a day in the life of Judge Dredd and his partner Anderson's first day. Cool, and it was a good movie.
Right.
Man, it is so dark. It made the original RoboCop look like Mary Poppins. I mean, this movie is really violent to the point of like feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah. Don't take your kids.
Yeah, I mean, wow, really unique use of like slow the camera down so you can see bullets and cut out a cheek and people getting squished and blood. So much blood.
Yeah.
But it really was good.
I mentioned this right after we watched it. There was no, oh my gosh, I fell in love with Judge Dredd.
Yeah, no love story.
None. And I feel like the last couple years, like you have an action movie, but you also have to have this like love story that goes along. So you get the female audience in. No, none of that, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
If you take your girl or your guy and you want to go see this movie, do it. Don't expect a love story. Expect pure, raw action.
It is just violence.
Yeah.
Like almost. I mean, hardly a minute goes by when it's just not like bravado and just gunplay and like I'm not usually like, oh, that's what I want to see in a movie. Right. But for Judge Dredd,
oh yeah,
that's what it has to be.
Yes.
Man, this is wicked sweet.
Yeah. I mentioned this to you. You kind of said, "Oh, the movies do it too," but he had to reload. He had to.
Yeah, even though he had his comic book super gun, he still had to like, it's not like a magic thing. he does run out of ammo.
You can't just lay into someone for 30 minutes with a regular gun. And,
yeah.
Oh, right. Reload. You know, it's good movie. Just a great movie.
Yeah, you know, and this is like the cap off of our season we seem to have had of comic book movies. And gosh, I hope, you know, I'm going to be dying for the next comic book movie, which I don't know when we're going to get.
Right.
I mean, the next thing that I can think of is Man of Steel, and that's not going to be until spring or summer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this picture.
Yes, I mean, 2 thumbs way up.
Yeah. All right. Not Siskel and Ebert, no Ebert and Roper. No.
Right.
No, that, you know, late in the game stuff.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I don't want to get into that tangent. But yeah, Dredd, excellent picture. I really hope, man, I want to see 10 sequels to this because there's so much. I love that it was just, you know, grit and grim, like I am the action hero. I'm tough all the time. But then when we get some like monologue areas that gave Carl Urban a couple of, you know, short monologues. Right. They were so effective.
Oh yeah.
And he was such just a colossal badass.
Yeah. Everything Dredd said.
Yeah.
Terrified everyone. It scared the crap out of them, except the one big villain chick.
Yeah.
Who was
cray.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this was in The Dark Knight. You know how Bane was like just frightening at every turn, you know, until that kind of last twist in the final act. You're like, what?
Yeah.
But it was like, man, I want to see my dream fight now is Bane versus Judge Dredd.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. So let's talk about Anderson a little bit.
Yeah.
She's a mutant.
Yeah, but she's a party one. She's a party.
Yeah.
And she's a psychic. I think I remembered that from the comics a little bit.
Okay. I'll be honest, the whole psychic thing usually ruins movies for me. Yeah. Because why don't you just read everyone's mind and just figure out everything?
Well, right.
But they used it in such a way that...
Well, it seemed like you had to be close, like really proximity-wise to somebody, and she couldn't control people's minds or any of that malarkey.
Yeah.
You know, no plot device to, like, use it as a cure-all, which was good.
Yeah.
So it's well-written picture.
Yeah, definitely. I want to buy it. I want to own it now so I can watch it again.
Yeah.
Because the theaters charge you an arm and leg to go see a movie.
Yeah. But man, no, this was excellent. So, yeah, I mean, it's what I was hoping it was going to be good. I was going to see it no matter what, and it was good.
Right.
I recommend seeing it. So.
Yes. One last thing about this movie is that it's a comic book movie.
Yeah.
We've mentioned it before when we talked about comic book movies. Go out and see these things. Tell the industry what you want to see. If you want to see more comic book movies, go check out comic book movies that are coming out.
Even if it's not a character that you're like, I don't know, or you don't know, just go. You know? I didn't see the Jonah Hex movie, and I've heard that it's nothing special.
Right.
But I kind of wish I'd have gone just so, and other people, just so it didn't fail so colossally, because it's an offbeat kind of comic movie. Right. Like this could have failed just as badly.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad it didn't.
Yeah. So like we said, go see the movie. Support comic books in any way you can.
Yeah, I guess what I meant by that was like, you know, it's nice to see ones that aren't just like straight superhero comic book adaptations. Absolutely. Even though I love those as well.
Oh, yeah.
So the fact that a Jonah Hex or a Judge Dredd can be made, and it's nice to see the Judge Dredd is at least a modest success in the theater. Well, I would love to see a sequel.
Right.
And maybe something on a grander scale, because this was kind of like in a very, almost an enclosed environment in this movie.
Right. But we do enjoy that in comic books. We like to be able to sit down with a book and read it through and have a full story. Oh,
and that wasn't what I meant.
Oh, okay.
What I meant was like literally in the plot, it's like they're closed off in this one building,
right.
And it's like, well, the concept, and I know a little bit more of the broader strokes with the Judge Dredd. It's this post-apocalyptic thing. There's the cursed earth that's like nearby. It's like the wasteland, and there's, you know, like craziness out there. There's a lot going on in that world.
So you'd like to see it expand?
I would like to see the next movie to, go out there. I didn't know what Dredd story was going to be adapted, or if this is just just a free adaptation of character. But this was really cool. So anyway, sorry, you had something.
I don't remember it.
Okay, so yeah, Judge Dredd. It's good.
Yeah, go see it.
Yeah.
In a theater near you. All right, so let's jump into our books.
Yes. Let's start. I mean, Zero Month at DC continues, although we're not going to start immediately on the Zero Month books. But, because that's not all that's happening.
It's not.
DC does put out books that aren't DC Universe. But anyway, but yeah, this is week 4 of Zero Month. Although I think next week's episode we're still going to have some Zero Month books that we're going to talk about. So,
so let's jump in with Ozymandias.
Yeah.
Which we get a way of saying his name in this book.
Well, and I'm still confused as to what emphasis on that syllable was. But,
yeah.
but Ozymandias, number 3, Len Wein the Great, and Jay Lee the very excellent did this, and I'm enjoying it. I like where this story is going.
Yes.
What do you want to say?
Pretty much the same thing we've been saying about these books, basically, is that we're getting good insight into the comedian in books other than the comedian. And I think
even though his book is finally taking off.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this is a story between Ozymandias and the comedian, and they're meeting, and
they fight.
Yeah.
And it was talked about in the original Watchmen, but it was just mentioned. And now we get to see that fight, and it's beautifully illustrated, and it's really great. And you get to see the Adrian Veidt, Eddie Blake, like just butting heads because they're totally opposites.
Oh yeah. One thing I'd like to take back a statement that I made when this book first started coming out.
Yeah.
I said I did not like the art. It's growing on me a lot. With this book, I thought it was just great. The art has, I don't know, I don't think it's changed, but it just seems better in this book than it has in the past.
Sure.
For me.
Well, yeah, and now we're midway through the series, and there's things are going to get really crazy, coming soon. So, excellent book. Mm-hmm. I mean, I like all of these Before Watchmen books to varying degrees.
Uh-huh.
This is one of my favorites, though.
Right.
So.
I mean, we get to look into his new fortress,
awesome. Veidt's new fortress that he's building in Antarctica.
Yeah.
Because he realizes what's the emergence of Dr. Manhattan as a world figure means. Mm-hmm. And so he's already planning for what happened in Watchmen. So this is cool.
Yeah.
This is very cool.
But that is our last DC outside the DCU.
Yeah, we're going to get into Zero Month.
Yes. So let's start with The Flash. You want to talk about this one?
Francis Manapul. I keep saying I love the way he's read this. It's DC characters with that classic Marvel feel, which is a great spin. We're getting, this is the new. A lot of these are origin issues, and this is no exception. We're really finding out what's the deal with the New 52's version of Barry Allen and his motivators and what's kind of going on in his life. His mother was murdered, and
maybe by his father.
Maybe this was his motivation to become a police officer. He was adopted by another cop.
Right.
What's the role of that other officer? Mm-hmm. Does he know something? At least those were things that I picked up in it. I thought this was a cool book.
Oh yeah, definitely. I like the flashbacks in it. The fact that it was flashing back, but we're still getting like the main story in our face at the same time. It was interesting. I like the way this one was drawn. It doesn't seem like the normal comic book art, I guess.
Yeah, it's a little different. And the flashback sequences, it's almost like they're colored more sepia tone.
Yeah.
As opposed to the present day. And that's interesting, but they're not quite black and white. You know what I mean? You still see color in them, but they're kind of washed out. Mm-hmm. And it's really a good approach to that kind of thing.
Yeah,
definitely. I like that. It's like, this is definitely the past. I like it.
Yeah.
That's really clever. So, I mean...
Cool book. The story's still, it informs you about who the Flash is, why he is, and where his power came from. But we're also like the overarching story that we've been getting the last couple months has been just wonderful.
Yeah.
I guess we pick it up a little late, but still, good
Still,
story.
I'm glad that we started reading the Flash.
Absolutely.
Period. So yeah.
Next up, we have
Batman, The Dark Knight,
Yes.
number 0. You were saying some things about this book. You really dug this?
I did. We all know the story behind
Yeah.
why Batman is Batman and where it came from. But I mean, this story made me feel just so sad for him because he starts off at a young age trying to figure all this stuff out. So he has this burden on him.
But I feel like when I come out, I was like, I thought it was kind of crap that as a kid he's investigating his parents' murder.
Right.
That was like, no.
Okay.
I didn't buy that. So I enjoyed the read, but I was like, because there was some interesting, it was poignant and there was some cool, emotionally it felt right, but I'm like, that just didn't make sense.
Right.
Because I think kids don't think on that kind of level. Even if it's Bruce Wayne and he's going to be Batman someday,
right. But I mean, it shows that even at a younger age, he was going through training to become the man he's going to become.
Sure.
He's going through the fighting training, or the boxing, the fencing, the different things that he goes through prep school.
Yeah.
And those are the kind of things you do at a prep school.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I didn't go to a prep school.
But I felt like as a kid, the transition from kid to, I'm putting all that away and immediately, like my thirst for vengeance or to, vindicate, or find my parents' killers and why so soon. It's just like, what about just grieving and like falling apart and then coming to that resolve,
right.
To me,
I enjoyed it. He's pissed in his graduation. I mean,
yeah,
he's surrounded
it's
by
like
family and
like I understand that his childhood ends immediately.
Oh yeah,
and he lives a joyless life.
Right.
I mean, he's definitely obsessed over this, and so I guess it makes sense then. I guess that it becomes a driving force. I just feel like the investigation in the mind of a child so young doesn't really fly. The rest of the story was really cool.
Right.
I dug it, and his kind of journey to the journey of being the Bat.
Right. I mean, there's this scene here with he's walking in the rain, and then there's this clown painted on the wall.
Yeah.
And he's talking about chaos.
Sure.
This really doesn't have anything to do with the story, but I feel like it's a cool homage to what's going to be happening.
Well, right. It's foreshadowing. You see this painted, clown on a wall advertising a circus, and it's raining, and then it starts to run. It starts to kind of resemble the Joker, and it's just as we're seeing his inner monologue. And of course, it's years before that, but that was a cool thing. Yeah. I like that.
I think that made this story for me is that, oh crap, we still have to worry about the Joker. He's figured out who's killed his parents. He's he's done all that. We still have this huge amount of chaos that's gonna just ruin his life.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it was pretty cool. I think I'm gonna start reading The Dark Knight anyway because I heard they're gonna get a new creative team.
Okay.
I've been heard that that's the weak Bat book, but I'm gonna check it out.
Right.
So, we got the Savage Hawkman.
Right.
Coming up, 0 issue. Okay, Rob Liefeld wrote this, and you know how I feel about him.
Yeah.
Spencer, what do you want to say about this? I kind of enjoyed this.
Yeah.
It was a cool story. It's a reimagining of a Hawkman origin, which, boy, I never had that before.
Right.
Jeez. I mean, Hawkman continuity is so screwed up.
Right.
But an origin, it's so crazy. But I don't know. I think my biggest problem was something really minor, was just that the nth metal becomes the mask and everything. And I liked his headdress to be feathery and like light looking and not like made of metal.
So I was with the beginning of the story.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell if did they have wings to begin with?
Yeah.
And then this disease removed those wings? I wasn't very sure.
Which is weird. And that's... Go ahead.
But, I mean, with the nth metal... I mean, they got wings, or... Qatar got wings back, but... and that kind of pissed off his.
But it seemed like he only
brother-in-law.
got the wings like when he was having the nth metal on
Right.
or something.
Yeah.
It was weird, but you go back to the original. I mean, pre New 52, pre Flashpoint. Okay, I'll say that. The wings were they were strap on. The nth metal was in the belt that allowed them to float, and then the wings kind of like helped them to really fly and maneuver and stuff. And he and Shaira were policemen on Thanagar.
Right.
So
here they're like royal family.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff.
I mean,
I thought the story, the background story of Qatar and Shiar's brother, can't remember his name.
It don't matter.
Being, brother, like blood brother kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then taking up the two different sides of the father and that the peace loving and then the warmongering.
Right, and then the blood son was the warmonger.
Right.
I mean, this is kind of okay. You kind of saw this coming, and it's gosh, this feels like other things Rob Liefeld has done.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a little too simple. It's a little too pat. I'm like, okay, you see everything coming around the corner a mile away because he's not talented as a writer. He's very cliche. He's a hack.
Okay.
It worked as a story, but it was so predictable.
Right. I don't know how it would work as an ongoing story.
I mean, I'm not adding to my pull list.
They left off with Shair coming to Earth and
to kill Carter.
But we'll leave it on the stands.
Yeah. I mean, if I want to see Hawkman, I'll see him in the new Justice League book.
Right.
So yeah.
Next we have Batman Incorporated. I'll let you talk about it because I didn't enjoy it.
No, I want to hear why. I was like, why haven't I been buying this book? Grant Morrison's writing it, and I love Grant Morrison. So I got this. Check it out. This is not part of the main Earth in DC Comics. This is another world where Batman kind of becomes a franchise. Right. And that's cool.
I didn't think so.
Okay, well, you talk about that.
I felt... I understand why it became franchised and Batman Incorporated.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there's crime outside of Gotham City.
Right.
But with Batman, I don't care about crime outside of Gotham City. He has enough to worry about in Gotham City. Okay. I thought the art was just awful.
See, I liked it. I mean, it's different.
I didn't like it at all. I thought the coloring was terrible with all the pinks and purples, and I hated it.
Man.
I mean, some of the other new Batman accomplice kind of people were kind of cool.
Sure. And some of them were kind of like, eh.
Yeah. I mean, the story, it's Grant Morrison, so you can't like really bag on him too much because he has so much great stuff.
Right, but I almost feel like, and we'll talk about this later, but more, because I feel like, is he just resting on his laurels because on his reputation of being great these days? Because there's another Grant Morrison book that we're going to talk about today, and another one that we're reading where we read Action Comics as well, and I'm like, this is cool, but this isn't like amazing like Grant Morrison.
Yeah, this was not. I mean, I was left unsatisfied in this book.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's sad for you because I think I'm going to continue picking this book up for a while, so you're going to continue to be dissatisfied.
And I'll read it, and maybe I'll come around.
Sure.
But as of right now, I mean, this with you have to let me use a Batarang. That was cool,
Or everybody wanting to so I heard you have a shrink ray.
Right.
Can I use that? It's just kind of cool.
Yeah, but I mean, the art and the story were just Stick with Gotham.
Stick with the main DCU. Yeah. Is what you're saying? The
well, I mean,
or Earth too.
I enjoyed the Dark Knight though, and so it's kind of different than.
Well, yeah,
Batman.
It's a different guy writing it.
Right.
Different, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
So, we're done with that one. The next one is Superman.
Yeah.
Scott Lobdell.
Scott Lobdell.
Lobdell.
Yeah, he did a lot of time over at Marvel. Okay. I think X-Men and stuff. But yeah, and Kenneth Rockford doing art.
Mhm.
What? Love the art.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, definitely had like kind of a painted feel. I think it is painted.
Yeah.
If not, I mean, I don't know. It's lovely art, but this issue, I mean, it was really about Jor-El and Lara and kind of a changing up the end of Krypton, and I'm like, I kind of came out like not caring.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna add this.
Yeah. And I mean, I didn't get the deal with.
And it wasn't a good window into like wonder what the Superman book is.
Right.
Regularly.
I didn't get the point of having. Where is he?
Who?
Maybe it was a different book. I thought that the last Son of Krypton showed up. Oh, he did. Right here.
Yeah, and in his goofy armor, it's like that's different than he's wearing in either Justice League or in Action Comics.
Right, but I still don't know why he's on Krypton.
Yeah.
Maybe that has something to do with where the Trinity are going. Well, I call them the Trinity. Batman, Wonder Woman, and...
in Earth 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know if this Superman book is part of the main...
Right. Maybe he got sent back.
If this is an Earth 1 or what, I don't know.
Right.
What it is it's just... These Zero issues need to be a good window in, a good starting point for at whatever book they're doing, and this didn't serve that purpose.
Right, and I feel like the ones we have enjoyed have been those stories that say, this is where it comes from, this is where it's going.
Yeah.
You know, those stories, and...
Yeah, it was a fail.
Yeah, this month has been shooting, I don't know what I'm saying.
It's a crapshoot.
Crapshoot, yes.
Yeah. So that's all our DC books for this week.
Yeah. Next week we should have more.
Yeah, we will. But well, we always have DC books. But so Marvel.
Marvel Universe with The Punisher number 16.
Man, what a good issue!
Oh,
I've been so back and forth with this book.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know about Rucka, but I loved this issue. It was so excellent.
Yeah.
You go. All I can say is love.
We have the aftermath of what went down in
the past couple issues with the Punisher getting set up. He's on the lam with this chick, and she screwed up and killed a cop,
and she's dealing with that. She's not a cop killer, but now she's a cop killer. You know?
Right.
And so she's dealing with that. She wants just to end it. She needs to go on the run. And so Castle's like, all right, we're splitting up. Take a gun, take ammo, take a phone.
Yeah.
And she's like, all right. And so he does the same, and they split up. And she wants to just end it.
Well, yeah, she basically put herself in the position of, like, I am going to be where they can catch me, and I'm going to confess and clear Frank, because this wasn't his fault.
Well,
because most of the time, the cops, their policy had been like, we look the other way with the Punisher.
Right.
Because whatever.
But now he's killed cops.
Allegedly. Everyone, it's been made to look like he's killed 3 cops.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah.
Right. And so she wanted to confess, but also I think she was leaning towards death by cop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is just terrible.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that puts so much pressure on everyone around you.
Yeah.
And it's unfair. But at the same time, you get it because she's screwed up and she needs to figure out what she needs to be doing.
Yeah.
And so Castle kind of works his magic.
Yeah.
And kind of stalls that.
Yeah.
But man, is this the last one in the prior to the Marvel Now reboot?
You know, I don't know. This isn't getting a Marvel Now reboot, but I was like, is this the last issue of the series?
Yeah, I mean, it felt like it.
I mean, I know that the Punisher Warzone limited series is coming up next.
It says the Punisher will return in Punisher Warzone.
So
maybe this is the end.
I mean, it could be that that's going to come out before the next issue of this.
Oh, okay.
You know, so clearly that whatever happens in Punisher Warzone is going to, you know, like
is that something you're going to be picking up, the Warzone?
Yeah, that's the reason I kept this book because this was going to be leading up to that.
Right.
Because Punisher Warzone is going to be Punisher versus the Avengers.
Oh man.
Yeah. So awesome.
Yeah.
But I feel like whatever happens in that limited series is going to take place before issue 17 of this.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So one thing,
if there is a 17, I'm confused on that point. So go ahead.
One thing about this book, if you haven't picked up the other stories, don't pick this up yet. pick up those other stories first.
What have you been reading? Like the previous 4 or 5 issues?
Yeah, because this, I mean, you'll get it. You'll get the sense of who they are and what happened, but you won't get that like feeling of, oh man, that heavy-hearted. Oh crap! This is what she's doing. You know, you learn to care about these characters a lot.
And this story feels like, man, just getting them in the back issue bins and reading them right in one sitting will be a lot better than the way we did it. Because month to month, the way this story was going was like, you come back 30 days later and you're lost.
Yeah. What I do love about Marvel right now is that they're doing this Daily Bugle newspaper ad or newspaper
page, kind of like, and that's kind of giving a window into the Marvel universe.
Right. And so it gives, and we're moving to the Amazing Spider-Man number 694 now.
Yeah.
It's Amazing Spider-Man versus Alpha.
And the cover is this great homage to the Superman and Spider-Man comic from the late 70s, I think, or mid, I don't know, back then.
Right. But you go to the first inside page, and you have
splash page.
Right. You have pointers to other books. So the Matt Murdock has Matt Murdock Gone Mad,
Yeah.
Venom and Rage and Demonic Dispute,
Or What's Going Over Captain Marvel,
right.
Ms. Marvel.
Right.
So that's kind of cool. That's a neat kind of thing. Like,
yeah.
Because remember, these people share a universe. In fact, a lot of them live in the same vicinity too.
Right. Yeah.
So that's very cool.
Right.
You don't get that vibe with a lot of the New 52. Like the Lantern books have a veil. I feel like the Bat books kind of have that thing going mostly, and then the other books are just kind of.
Well, I mean, there's the continuities are just shifted.
Yeah.
And so you don't know where is this taking place in contrast to what's going on in like Wonder Woman or
right, and it's just like Hal Jordan in Green Lantern doesn't feel like Hal Jordan in Justice League.
Right.
It feels like a totally different guy. And I'm like pretty sure that those are supposed to be on the same continuity plane. But it's tricky because the Lantern books didn't reboot with the New 52.
Right.
There wasn't a continuity shift, and yet the rest of DCU did.
Right.
So it's really weird that those are supposed to be tied. Because clearly, the Hal dying, that's like, where's Hal going in the regular Justice League book? Air quotes on Hal dying, because I don't believe that Hal and Sinestro are dead. I think something is up with that.
Oh, right. I mean, we saw in the Baz story that they're not. That they're just somewhere else.
Was that what it was?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I missed that.
Oh.
Sorry, I didn't catch up on that. Okay. Oh. But anyway, let's talk about this Spider-Man book. Tangent. Yes. Okay. So yeah, Spidey and Alpha.
I hate Alpha so much.
But you're supposed to.
I know. And they've done a great job, Slott.
Dan Slott has been doing a great job writing this book.
And he's made me hate Alpha, and I'm totally justified in it because he's a little douchebag.
Well, right, and it's just like you're getting like, what if Spidey, if the robber hadn't gone and killed Uncle Ben,
right?
But it's even more of that.
Didn't have Uncle Ben just in general,
right?
Or a family that cared about him.
I love when we get a great guest appearance from the Avengers in this.
Yeah.
Yes. And Terminus, that made me smile so much. My first Avengers story, period, was an annual from like 1990, 91, The Terminus Factor. It was a story that crossed like several annuals.
Oh, cool.
And one of those jobs. And I had the last part, and that was the annual, and then all these backup stories. But this was one of my favorite comics when I was a kid because, you have ones that I know every panel, every page. Right. And that was a very special book for me. And so Terminus was my, super smiles seeing Terminus come back.
Awesome.
Realizing now what J. Jonah Jameson is the mayor of New York.
Well, not only that, he's like cousins with
sort of, yeah, because Aunt May has married Jameson's father.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah,
it's his uncle then.
Yeah.
Step uncle.
It's weird.
Yeah.
No, Parker's his step nephew.
Right.
No, Jameson is Parker's step nephew.
Jameson is?
Yeah.
Whatever.
No, they're stepbrothers. No, something like it doesn't make
It
sense.
doesn't make sense.
But whatever.
They're related.
Kinda by marriage.
Right.
So yeah.
And we get a cool turn from Jameson that it's that pesky kid, but it's not Spider-Man this time. It's Alpha.
Right.
He's just being a douche and ruining things.
Come on, J. Jonah Jameson has to be J. Jonah Jameson.
Oh no, I meant Alpha. Sorry.
Oh yeah, but Jameson.
So we've talked about where the Craft of the Jackal go. Where's Hobgoblin?
I think the Jackal was just going to be a one-off, maybe.
Right, but now we have.
Next issue, the Hobgoblin thing is going to be coming. I'm like, yes.
Thank God, we've gotten rid of this stupid Alpha kid.
Yeah, who will come back later, but much later, I think.
But now we have the Hobgoblin, and I'm excited.
Yeah, this new Hobgoblin story is going to be so sweet. It's going to have the Kingpin,
Oh, yeah.
And I'm amped. I'm excited. Yeah. So I've been enjoying Amazing Spider-Man. Going to continue.
Yeah, I'm surprised I have too, yeah.
Okay.
Because I'm not the biggest Spider-Man fan.
Right.
So.
Okay, so we're now on to Journey into Mystery, number 644. It's part 5 of the Everything Burns crossover.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to say? I mean,
I'm being dragged kicking and screaming through this book. Any distraction that happens while I'm reading it is going to take my attention from it.
Because there's so much going on.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
The end of this book was great, and I'm excited for the finale in the part 6.
Yeah. And I think there will be an epilogue, too.
Oh, okay.
Well, there was a prologue. There should be an epilogue.
Oh, right.
But anyway, go ahead.
By the way, this is Journey into Mystery, the Everything Burns series, number 644. We didn't mention that.
I did say that immediately.
I didn't say it.
It's okay. But,
okay. I'm reading it because I wanted to know more about Thor and Loki.
Yeah. And now you kind of wish you hadn't, right?
Yeah. I wish I'd started earlier.
Me too.
Basically. Because if I started earlier, I'd care more about these characters.
It's a huge cast of characters in this book. And in both the Thor books.
You know what it feels like to me?
What?
It feels like a soap opera to me.
It is.
And I'm not a fan of soap operas.
Oh, man.
And I mean, because it flashes from scene to scene to scene to scene to scene, and then you're not getting, like, a scene starts but it doesn't finish, it skips to the next scene. A scene starts, it doesn't finish, it skips to the next scene. That's how I feel this book is working. And I'm just, what happened here? What happened here? What happened here?
You don't know all these relationships, and there's a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm tracking with the story, but just barely.
Right.
I'm gonna continue so we can get through and the whole story and get it.
Right.
But I'm not excited about this book.
Right.
So hopefully when I get some resolution, some things will be more clear.
The way I feel about it, whenever you bring the books over for me, your books for me to read, it's one of the first ones I read so I can get it out of the way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not a strong seller. And it's weird. Matt Fraction's writing Thor and then co-writing Journey into Mystery.
Right.
So I guess this story arc is not his pure vision, and maybe that's why it feels muddy.
Maybe.
But because there's just so many characters and blah, blah.
Yeah.
So
we have this Thanos Quest. It's a
Thanos Quest one shot. And it's reprinting the 2-issue limited series from, I want to say, 88 or 1990.
Okay.
Jim Starlin written and Ron Lim pencils.
Mm-hmm.
And
I didn't realize that it was from like 1990. But when I opened it and I saw the art, I'm like, this is not from now.
Nope.
This has to be from earlier because people don't do comics like this very much right now.
I remember when Ron Lim was like the hot guy at Marvel. And it's just like, where did he go? He's just fallen off the face of the earth. And that's sad because I frankly enjoyed him.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it's good. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I think it's good.
Yeah.
But cool story.
Yeah.
Thanos searching for these soul gems is that what he called them?
Yeah. The Infinity Gems.
The Infinity Gems, yeah. Giving him this unlimited power and, so cool.
Yeah,
like he needs more power.
Because he wants to be able to kill everything and everybody to please Death.
Right.
If that's what she even wants.
Yeah.
Because Death is a balancing thing in the universe.
Right.
Yeah.
He promised her like he'd kill half of the universe. And it would bring order to something.
But he's going to try and kill it all to just like, oh, look, even more.
Right.
It's just like, you get a new girlfriend, you don't buy her a diamond ring right away, or just go overboard with the gifts, that kind of thing. It's just too much.
Right.
Or that kind of thing. You don't... Thanos, you're playing yourself, man.
Right. So we talked about this a little bit, and I was not familiar with him very much.
Yeah.
And so when we were talking, I said, I felt like I was reading a Dark Side comic,
Right.
Like he was just like you could
juxtapose him with Darkseid very well.
Yeah.
And there's a reason because the guy who created him, I want to say Jim Starlin, but I may not be correct, but whoever created Thanos, said like, no, I wanted to be able to write basically Darkseid, and he basically created a character that was like Darkseid.
Right.
He's not exactly the same, but the build and the demeanor is pretty much identical.
Right.
But I mean, Darkseid to me seems like a Doctor Doom on a much grander scale.
Right.
And Thanos is cut from a different cloth.
Yeah.
He's not like, I'm gonna rule this world and whatever. But killing everything in life. They're thinking the anti-life equation.
Right.
But those don't equate to be the same thing.
Right.
Anti-life meant something else when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
Because it happened.
Right. This is our new villain in the
Marvel movieverse.
Right.
I think we're gonna get winks and nods to him in the other pictures leading up to Avengers 2.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
So we'll have is there a continuation of this story?
Well, this is the prelude to the Infinity Gauntlet.
Okay.
And it's weird. There's another one-shot that we'll talk about in the next episode. It's the Thanos Quest. It's a classic story, and I don't want to spoil it, but the end kind of sets up the rebirth of Thanos, which has just been collected, or I don't know if it was ever collected, but there's a trade out of that, and then following that is the Thanos Quest.
Okay.
And then the Infinity Gauntlet, the Infinity War, and then 2 volumes of the Infinity Crusade.
Cool.
This was the big thing in like 90 to 92 at Marvel, like the cosmic stuff and the big... I remember the Infinity Gauntlet being a big deal at the time. It was like, wow! Because you saw everybody in it and together. The Avengers and the Fantastic Four and Spidey and X-Men and the Hulk. And that was the first time I'd experienced that.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't seen, Red done Secret Wars yet. So this was like, oh, cool! All these characters together. So that's a special thing if for that at the very least.
Right.
So
we're leaving DC and Marvel behind, and we're jumping over to Image Comics.
Yes. Now, I picked up this book as a suggestion, and as I thought, well, I love Grant Morrison.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure I'll love this. Okay, it's called Happy, and it's issue number 1. And...
yeah.
To me, this felt so much more Garth Ennis than Grant Morrison. And as much as I like Garth Ennis, if I'd have wanted a Garth Ennis book, I would have got one.
Right. The art is really cool. I dug the art a lot.
It's good. And what's the guy?
Sorry, inside.
Derek Robertson.
Yeah.
Derek Robertson. So, I like the art. But I don't care if I care about another mob story.
Right.
Even if you do get an imaginary friend.
Yeah.
Like, what?
I didn't like the imaginary, and its name's Happy. It's the name of the book, but
yeah.
I didn't care. I didn't care about the protagonist. I didn't care about...
Yeah, and I felt like the dialogue was just so, like, blah. Just like, okay, look, profanity is fine, but, like, if your whole sentence is peppered with that, and every character's like that, That's so boring. Come on, Grant Morrison. You are an intelligent man. You can write dialogue that is meaningful.
Right.
And this was crap to me.
Right.
So
I have a feeling you're right. He is riding the wave of great Grant Morrison.
yeah, and that's really sad because I always build Grant Morrison up as one of the great writers in the comics industry, and you know, Batman Incorporated, I think that's cool. I'm gonna keep reading that. Action Comics has been like, okay, I can go with this, I guess, and this I just didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
So good to meh to moo.
Right.
Good is not. Where's the Grant Morrison that was like so cerebral and great and amazing? I remember the Animal Man Grant Morrison, the Doom Patrol Grant Morrison. I'm not seeing that, and that sucks.
Yeah.
And I'm really disappointed. So
our last book today is from Dark Horse. It's The Goon, number 42, by Eric Powell.
Yeah.
I
picked this up because I like The Goon, and I hadn't read an issue of The Goon in a long while.
Mm-hmm.
And I had fun with this. I don't know if it's a perfect intro to him.
It was just fine.
Oh.
I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was clever. I loved his little sidekick. It was fun. I'd seen this in the shop, and I'm like, oh, what's that? That looks weird.
Yeah.
And I never picked it up. The art's a bit cartoony,
but it's good.
But
it's real good.
I wouldn't want to see this drawn any other way, I don't think. It just has this cool, gritty feel to it.
Yeah. No, The Goon is a very special book, and it's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's very funny. I think I've referenced it on the show before.
Oh, okay.
When we were talking about Battle Pug, I was saying it was funny in the vein of The Goon and Axe Cop.
Okay.
And that was kind of about where Battle Pug felt. I enjoy The Goon. I have not been a major reader of The Goon, but every time I've read an issue, which has been a handful of times, I've really dug it.
Yeah.
It's a fun book.
Yeah. And I mean, it was kind of a good place to jump in too, because it's starting this new kind of arc with who was it? I can't remember the character's name, but this kind of voodoo kind of guy with the
magic and there's all kinds of goofy things like that going on in The Goon always. So yeah,
fun book.
Yeah.
I'd like to mention now that we're done with our books.
Yeah.
I read something earlier that Mark Miller is going to be teaming up with Marvel and Fox, kind of like the movie Fox, not Fox TV, but to bring us our Marvel movies. He's going to be helping in the creation of those movies.
Mark Miller is?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so, I mean, the guy from Kick-Ass and what else did he do?
Lots of things.
Well, yeah.
Lots of great things. And some Ultimates, which are like, Ultimates are poop. But,
right,
but even, I will say the book, The Ultimates, it's basically the Avengers, that one's a cool book.
Cool.
So, but other than that, I mean, everything that he's written, I've enjoyed.
Right.
I mean, he did Superman Red Sun. Love that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things. His another one of his creations, Nemesis, is being made into a movie too. And I haven't read that, so I don't know about it, but I'm sure it's rad.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to read it now.
But yeah, I got excited because, I mean, with Whedon doing Avengers, I'm set. With Mark Miller doing other stuff with the Marvel Universe.
That's very exciting.
Yeah. Because he said he wants to give comic book fans the comic book movies that they want.
Yeah.
And so I trust him.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see what's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be really good. Because, I think in the beginning of the 2000s and definitely in the 90s, we saw, just bad comic book movies.
Mm-hmm.
And now you see fewer and fewer of them being crappy and more of them being, this is really good. This really got the feel of me, the comic book fan, right.
Right.
It
wasn't just to blow up the box office anymore.
Right.
It's to get comic book fans to really love their comics and come out and watch a good movie.
Yeah, and maybe, or things that are true to the source material or capture the feel of it true enough.
Yeah.
And hopefully, especially because a lot of these movies are hits now,
mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it was always kind of a mixed bag on hits and nots, but I feel like hopefully this will really get people out of the theater and to the comic book shops.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's unfortunate you have to go to a comic book shop to get comics anymore.
Yeah.
Because kids today don't even know what a comic book is because, I'm sorry, if you're in town with Walmart is the source of, the center of the universe, they don't have that.
Right.
Comic book racks don't exist in grocery stores, and I don't
That's
know.
a bummer.
I don't know. Maybe it'll be like, hey, I'd like to see comic shops pop up more just so they're more convenient. But
right.
But I don't know. More people reading comics is always good,
Absolutely.
and that's what I hope to see.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm getting on a ramble. Next episode, we're gonna do an overview of Zero Month from DC, and then we'll of course carry on with what's up as we're gearing towards Marvel Now, beginning in
this next month.
It's either the last. Is it October?
Yeah.
Or is it going to be November? Okay, yeah. So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm Nicholas Prom.
I'm Spencer Valadez.
This has been Comic Reflections.
Awesome.